Hi there.
Hi.
We will try to talk about news a bit. Maybe not news anymore, but olds, I guess, or something.
Okay, this is one of the more exciting news. It's at least for me. We've been following Girdle books in their various implementations for a while, but we haven't yet seen this one, and it was on sale. Okay, it did cost. The estimate was 10 to 20,000 pounds. It sold for almost 100. So again, a bit outside our price range, but perhaps for a library, not that expensive. So this is an image of, this is a small extract from it. And here you can see it a bit bigger. And when I saw the news, I thought, now that doesn't look like a Girdle book. I wonder what it looks in its entirety. So I went to the auction houses page, and here's what I found. I really like how the page is made. There are lots of photos. There's a very good description, although it's a bit optimistic in some regards, but we'll talk about that. Okay, so here it is. Here's how it works. First of all, while looking at it, try imagining how big it is, because it's not immediately obvious. Just guess. Yeah, perhaps even smaller. I'll show you.
Okay.
It's an interesting thing, and just look at how engineered, or perhaps even over-engineered it is. So it's not a book how we usually imagine it. You can't just leaf through it. It's more like one of those child books. There is a whole quest finding where a certain character is hidden behind which corner, etc. And it goes like this. It's a medical manuscript, so it was used by a surgeon, by a traveling surgeon, almost certainly, because of the size and because of what surgeons were at the time. Because doctors, like university-educated doctors, didn't really do any operations. They mostly looked at vials of your, I don't know the good word for it, so I say piss. Yeah, and saying what's wrong.
Urine?
Urine, yeah, thank you. I should have thought about a Latin root. So here it goes. Here's another one and another one, and at some point we'll get to the details. Yeah. So it's very professionally made, probably in France or Germany. I forget, probably Germany. Yeah, 15th century or thereabout, with some initials and even some illuminations. Yeah, here it is. Here's an interesting one. Not something you'd expect to encounter in a medical book, but then medicine, astrology, you need to get rid of your black bile when Saturn is encroaching on your left arm or something like that, So there are phases of the moon and everything. And there's more of it. This is something about eclipses. And here's the best bit, the one big illustration. I think there will be, won't there be a bigger?
Nope, that's just the back cover.
No. Yeah, maybe I can go closer. I think I can. Yeah. Here it is. So it's about what exactly influences different parts of your body, and you can see some zodiac symbols. Here's Cancer. Here's the bull, and I don't know the English names of those. Here's a Capricorn. Here are the twins, Gemini, etc. Here are the fishes, future.
Pessis, or how Pessis or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why people are supposed still to know that. I mean, astrology, seriously.
Well, there are a lot of people really into this stuff. So.
I know. So I imagine modern manuscripts should contain the same sort of images with four-letter abbreviations, like your arm is IFTP, your head is so extroverted, etc. So this is a traveling surgeon's, a traveling doctor's manuscript, and only for $100,000. Who knew? Which is especially surprising considering how few of these.
How rare, yeah.
Yes, as far as I know, there are 25 Girdle books at most, all over the world, combined 25 at most. At the same time, I saw an article collecting depictions of Girdle books in manuscripts and paintings, and there are at least 150. And no one ever counted how many of them are on the sculptures, because, you know, you go to basically any cathedral, you'll find a saint or a monk with a Girdle book on his side. So they were extremely well spread, but they were used. This is not a library book. This is something you have on you all the time. So I presume many of those girdles themselves disintegrated and books were rebound.
Or recycled.
Yeah. But then I've never heard of a book in a library collections that would have been proven to be modified from a Girdle book variant into a normal binding. So maybe it's under research, maybe it's that rare, maybe they were all just used to bits. So speaking of other books, I know of only one other Girdle book looking like this. You remember when we first encountered this news, we both thought that it's not even the same sort of Girdle book as all the others, but then I looked through my notes and I found another one, probably from the same bookshop, certainly from the same scientific milieu. So here it is. I mean, it's basically the same thing, and now you can see how small they are.
So it's a palm size or something.
So it's not a handheld manuscript; it's a palm-held manuscript.
Yeah. Pocket book.
Not that there were pockets.
Pocket Girdle book.
Yeah. From what I remember, pockets appear later, and even then, pockets are not an integral part of clothes. Pockets are like small bags that you attach to your belt. So it's centuries before pockets, and here we have a pocket book, a pocket Girdle.
Centuries of pocket innovation.
Yeah. So
when I hear the word pocket, I all the time I remember the story by Stephen Fry, how John Rowling sort of teased him or even bullied him just a bit by placing a lot of word pairs, pocketed it into Harry Potter, because he complained once to her, and then he told at some moment that she probably started placing this word pairing in every place she could.
I wouldn't mind to have pocketed it. I mean, this one. So you'll probably agree that it's very similar to the one we've just seen, both in terms of composition and in technical terms, and in what it depicts. But this one is a male version. But I checked, and in terms of zodiac signs, a male and female genitalia, say, are controlled by the same celestial creatures.
By what, by the way?
I don't know what that is, by the way. No idea. So, just to remind our viewers what a regular, the more widespread Girdle books looks like. Yeah, here are some examples. By the way, Girdle books seem to date to at least 13th century. There is no documentation, no mention, they're never mentioned in wheels or inventories, but, and even worse, the oldest one that we have surviving is from the 15th century. So we have at least 200 years of history missing, but they mostly look like this. So it's a book with a piece of leather continuing
with a hood of sorts. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. If you open it, the hood opens too. So, but you can attach it to your clothes or to your bag or anything, and we'll get to here. Here it is. Here's how it looks in an open state, and you can see that even these well-preserved ones are mangled.
So as far as I remember, you put it on your belt upside down.
Yeah.
It's placed upside down, and then you can read it like shown in this photo.
I don't think you can read it.
Or you have to take
standing,
it out of
okay. Yeah. You should probably sit first because otherwise I don't know how you'd use it. But yes, this is how they look on all the illustrations. Some of them could be of very impressive quality. This is clearly a Nuremberg example, judging from the metal bits. It's the same kind of workshop would have produced this that would make individual details for mechanical clocks. And this is the origin of mechanization. This is where our modern world starts with these kind of ornaments. They get smaller, they get more detailed, they get more precise, then they start to be used in mechanisms, they get even smaller, and we get to the modern age. But this is where it starts, and it's a really nice one. I like it. And another example, again, you can see that they range in quality. Of course, any book was an expensive object back then, but
well, even nowadays, I wouldn't say fine bindings, but the unique and handmade bindings range in quality quite a lot. And some of the handmade bindings, which are priced not very cheaply, are not of great quality. So and I see it on Facebook. There is a market for these books as well, and there are people who I just saw some binding of Dune by Frank Herbert, and it was a leather binding. But well, if you use leather, try better, I guess. Or I don't know what. So yeah, sorry for this intervention once again, but there is definitely difference in quality. Even if you pay a lot of money, that doesn't always mean that you get the quality.
And this is probably a good example to mention that they were not all medical books. In fact, I could only find 3 medical books, and the rest of them could be anything. Of course, there are manuscripts for personal devotion, mostly psalters, manuscripts for use in church for choirs. There is a breviary there, and there are many entertainment value things, and this one I think is a French romance. There are a few poems in this list, so anything you were gonna carry while traveling, I assume pilgrims were using those too, traveling salesmen, all sorts of people. But frankly, we don't really know.
You didn't really have nice backpacks until the first half of the 20th century, or even middle of the 20th century, because the military backpacks were awful during the First World War, and even I guess during the Second World War as well. So you just had to put all your stuff on yourself, and then you have a sort of bag or something, and obviously
probably on a stick. We know the image. So this was the piece of news about Girdle book, a £100,000 Girdle book. But if you have a bit more spare change than that, you can buy this house. And yes, I am showing you a piece of news from Country Life magazine. Bear with me. A £7 million house in Salisbury, which has an amazing library attached to it with some 20,000 books plus a collection of rare printed material and other ephemera collected by the most recent owner.
I should probably add that the article you showed, you are showing us currently is from 2017, but the news that the house is on sale is more recent. It's from this autumn. I'm not sure if somebody already bought it. I don't think so. It's usually doesn't go that fast. So you probably still have a chance. And yeah, the news is pretty recent. And
they put out an article on it about once a year, so probably it's not that easy to sell a house like that.
Yeah. And in some more recent articles, they cite that there are 20,000 books, not 18,000. But anyway, who counts?
Yeah. And that's a few $100 per book, and you get a great tulip
and the house. Yeah.
And the tennis court and a few acres of land and probably a title. I don't know how it works, but probably something like that. So that's an interesting idea. If you don't want to make your own library collection, you can buy one with a house.
This works. This definitely works.
So to scale down a bit, another piece of news: a few fragments of 12th century romances have been found recently, and by found I mean
uncovered.
Yeah. So it happens every so often.
Yeah.
Every library has a project looking at their old dilapidated bindings. And one of the first things that you do if you are a conservator, you look what was used to enforce the binding inside.
Yeah. To line the spines, under the end leaves, anywhere. Yeah.
So you can see that it is a printed book, but what was used to enforce it, reinforce it.
So was it vellum or something?
Parchment, yeah. This is why it's used, because parchment is very durable.
Yeah.
And in this,
and lots and lots of manuscripts were recycled this way during the early years of printing, during the time of incunables, and yeah, some of these manuscripts are considered pretty valuable nowadays.
Oh yes. I mean, you can count on your two hands complete books that we have from, say, 7th century, but at least 12 leaves from the best scribes and illuminators of the time were found inside bindings, and not as in this case as small scraps, because often the full page was used to cover the book before putting more leather outside.
Yeah.
So this is not rare to find something inside a binding, but what is rare is to find an unknown text, or in this case, a piece of known text that was only known about, that was known to have existed. And I really like what it is about. It's about a medieval siege at the time of Charlemagne's son. So this is Louis the Pious. And if the church calls a king the Pious, it's probably because he wasn't very good at his job. So in this particular case, his allies are asking him to send people to help defend a city, and he talks to his wife, and his wife says, well, it's a religious holiday, we're not supposed to take part in the war, it's not good for us, our poor warriors, etc. Louis the Pious agrees, and one of the characters of this story calls the wife, and let me quote, Puterusse, or red-headed puta, if you know Spanish. So, there's that. So if you happen to have an old binding, look inside.
Just check. Just check it.
Just check. And finally, a piece of news from a completely different part of the world. A few months back, recent additions to Uzbekistan cultural legacy of Uzbekistan website was announced. In particular, they paid attention to these amazing medieval Islamic astronomical manuscripts. And again, this is a whole class of literature and of illumination that exists in all over the Islamic world, but especially in Uzbekistan, because of course Uzbekistan and its cities of Bukhara, Fergana, etc., they've been, if not the birthplace, then certainly the heart of medieval astronomy for centuries. Most of what we know about ancient Greek astronomy comes to us through translations in Islamic world. More importantly, they built new observatories. The oldest astronomical observatories that still survives in any kind of shape is in Uzbekistan. And Bukhara and Samarkand produced hundreds and hundreds of illuminated manuscripts, and they were both beautiful and useful. They usually contain tables of positions of stars, and they almost always have these wonderful illustrations of constellations. I couldn't possibly tell you what this constellation is, but it is stunning. Yes, so they had some constellations that are that look the same as ours, but most of these, what's that? I don't know, but I like it. And more and more. Just let me leaf through.
Yeah.
There are just two stars, but there's a great drawing. It looks like an ancient Egyptian Anubis figurine. The snakes. Now those are having fun.
Obviously.
This is constellation of Orion the Hunter. This one I know. And as usual, you can see what we call Orion's sword, and my teacher always said, sword, just below the belt. Ursa Major, the great bear-ish creature. I mean, there aren't bears in Uzbekistan. The closest ones are probably in the Pamir and well to the north in the Russian steppes. So probably no. That's a good. That's a great one.
Yeah.
That's probably a Capricorn. I don't know what it is. What's that aggressive little creature called that stings with your tail? Scorpion.
Scorpion, yeah.
And so that's probably what it's. And it has 8 legs. Is that anatomically correct? I'm not sure.
That should be a spider. In that case.
But this is certainly not anatomically correct. Maybe yes, but you can see Chinese influence because, of course, Uzbekistan and its great cities are part of the Silk Road network. Yeah, and it doesn't take much to see the influence. Here are the Gemini. They're dancing and they're not looking at each other. That reminds me of many twins I know. I mean, they come together to a party and immediately go separate ways. Just not to be confused, I presume. And what those are, I have no idea. Quadruplets, quadruples, double twins. and what's the gender? The ones on the left seem to be naked. No, they're not naked. They're wearing something very tight. So and on it goes and on it goes. Another thing I wanted to show you is
I posted a couple of links, so if you want to check it on your own, please follow the link. And
you should look at their website. It has lots of arts and crafts from Uzbekistan, not just manuscript, but the page on 100 outstanding manuscripts is exactly that, outstanding. They have one of the earliest Qurans in existence, and you can see that by the very characteristic script. We should probably talk about earlier Quranic scripts at some moment, because it's really interesting.
Well, we plan to talk about the earliest printed Qurans, and we can sort of join these topics, or make a two-parter or something like that.
Yeah, because the interesting thing is you can't analyze this Islamic scripts the way you analyze the European ones, because often a paleographer would look at the European manuscript and date it within a decade, and you just can't do that. Perhaps you can, but at least for now, the technique is not that developed, because the things that paleographers are used to look at just aren't there. They are so similar, but some new developments are coming. Then there are the famous illuminated epics, and it is a very interesting thing that outside Iran and Uzbekistan, historic epics, and northern India for a brief period, historic epics are never illustrated in Islamic world.
Islamic tradition, yeah.
Yeah, you can see why, especially the faces. But in Uzbekistan, there's a great tradition about this. This is.
I have a couple of albums dedicated to this illustrated epics, and I guess we should post about it a bit as well. And yeah, there are some beautiful objects there, images,
and you can see some really rarefied glimpses of palace life, and I also always like to look at what they do with the perspective. I mean, look at this. I don't know what it is. This architectural construction around the prince. It seems that he is separated from the court, as was indeed the tradition. Some rulers were never seen by their people, but we need to see him because he's the center of attention in this manuscript. It was probably presented to him, so we can both see that he's walled off and we can see him. So that's the. Oh, sure. Timurname. So whatever happens here, it's surely a part of this Indo-European, Aryan, and then later mixing it up with Judaic tradition. So it's both Abrahamic in its imagery and very, very ancient indeed. You can find similar things in pre-Christian India, pre-Judaic India.
Almost everywhere.
Yeah.
You can find similar things almost everywhere.
And here you can see the fire around the faces. By the way, almost always, if it's Muhammad depicted, later readers just scrape out the faces and leave the fire. So at the time it was okay, but later on it almost always disappears. And you can see also some echoes of the traditions from the Bible. I mean, it's like the Ecclesiastes, the Apocalypse, the many-headed female with multicolored wings another beast with a female head, because of course monsters are female and a male is riding her. How could he not? This is the life of Temujin or Chinggis Khan, and what an amazing example of calligraphy this is. And I really like this thing they do, coloring or covering in gold spaces between letters. So the text starts to flow. It's both linear and yet you can it sort of moves. A very interesting thing to do. More of those palace scenes.
Well, there is 100 of outstanding manuscripts there.
So these are the one they highlight, but I highly recommend looking through the whole collection. There's more than 100 actually, but they're like round numbers, I guess. So we finally weeded down a bit our news backlog. We still have lots and lots. I highly recommend everyone to join our Discord server, where there is a curated stream of news.
Yeah. And I really hope we'll be able to keep up with the news, because there are some really interesting bookish things happening almost all the time, and it's just a pleasure to share this news with you. And well, another interesting video, I hope. So thanks a lot for watching, and please join the crowd, our community on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, and Patreon. And thanks, Pavel, for being here today with me, and see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.